Okay, so where we left off was we built a movie list, and it was listing some of our favorite movies. The next thing we really want to do is add some type of method that we can add more movies to this. So I want to put a hyperlink down here, so that way when I click on it, it'll go to a fill-in form where I can insert new movies and then just kind of fill this list with those movies. That's my current plan here. The only way I can get movies in is right now currently going to my database and then just manually right clicking and saying add new row, type in the name of the movie, and then I can commit that new row. So what I'm going to do is inside my movie list, I'm going to right click. Actually, I'm going to go to my includes. I'm going to right click on my template and I'm going to copy it. And then on my movie list, I'm going to paste it. And then I'm just going to call it movie add. Actually, I think I'm going to keep it all lowercase, movie add. And then within my movie list here, way at the bottom, right below my table, I'm just going to put in a hyperlink and a href. And I'm going to go to movie add. And then I'm just going to say add new movie. I'm going to save that. And if I take a look, I'm going to refresh this. I'm going to put a break in front of it just so that way I get a little bit of space here. Might actually do 2 breaks. See what that looks like. Okay, so got my list of movies. Click on add new movie. Now I'm on my add movie add.php. So here I want this to be a fill-in form where I can type in the movie title, type in the rating, hit save, and then when I hit save I want it to go back here, and then I should see the new movie in the list. That's my plan here. So within my movie here, I want this to look similar. So I've got my movie list, which is an H3. I'm just going to say add new movie. And I'm just going to stick with the table for now. The way I think I want this to go is I think I want to have a TH which is going to say movie name. And then below that is going to be a TD, so the next one to the right, I'm just going to put an input with a type of text. Something like that. So this needs to be inside a table row. So I'm going to put my table row in and add both of these inside my table row. I'm going to do another table row. Then I'm going to do another TH, which is going to be the left column. And this is going to be movie rating. Then the next TH is going to be another input box. So my table, I'm going to make the border equal to 1, and then my width equal to, I think I did 80% on the other one, so I'm going to just follow that. So I'm going to see what that looks like. Looks good. So I'm going to need a save button. I think I'm going to just keep on kind of messing around with this for a little bit. I'm actually going to do another TR. And then in here I'm going to do a TH. I'm going to make that say add new movie. Then I'm going to do my col span 2. I'm going to get rid of this here. So I'm just going to make the TH spread across 2 columns. Add new movie. Let's just see what that looks like. Then I think I'm going to add another one down here with a save button. So I'm going to do another table row. Then I'm going to do a TD, table data. Then inside here I'm going to do an input. My type. It's going to be a submit. Then the value is going to be what's going to be on the button itself, and I'm just going to say save or add new movie. Okay, so I needed to col span that one as well. It's going to span 2 columns, because right now I'm in 1 column. This is 1 column, 2 columns, so I want to stretch across both of them. Alright, and then I think what I'm going to do here is going to kind of mess around with this a little bit. So I've got table rows, TRs. So let's try doing that on the TD instead of the... And actually, did they do pixels? They did not. Not a huge difference, but... Okay, so what I want to do is I want to put a style sheet that's specific to just this page only. I don't want to have it affect all of my pages. My inputs. I'm just going to make the length. Let's see if I can Google that. Oh, maybe I didn't need that. So let's just try adding a size to that. Way too big. But at least I know that's working, so I don't need the page style. There we go. I'm just trying to see if I can make this look a little bit nicer. Okay, so I think this is going to be what I'm going to go with here. I've got to add new movie. I can type in the blob, I can type in whatever I want, add it. So what I want to do is this whole table here has everything that I need to submit. So I'm just gonna add a form tag around it. In my method, I could use a get or I could use a post. Either method is good. If I use a get, I will see it in the URL. If I use a post, I will not see it in the URL. So I don't know. There's different times where certain things are appropriate. If it's going to be something bookmarked or something like that, a get probably would be the best approach. If it's going to be something that's going to be emailed to somebody, a get would be the approach that I would use. Just so that way it would be in the URL, and then if somebody were to click on a link or something like that, it would regenerate the same query. If it was going to be like a username, password, login, I would definitely use a post. That way you don't see it in the URL. If it's going to be a free-flowing, like a description, the get does have a character limit, so after like 250 some characters, that'll truncate it. So if somebody's typing up a whole, big description of themselves or something, if you're using a GET, it might just chop it off, where the post can hold more textual data. Now in this situation, it really doesn't matter. I'm going to just select post, just because it's a method. Now the action, technically if I don't do an action, it'll post back to itself. So that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm just going to save this and just see. So if you look, if I press this, if I refresh, then press it, it'll actually post back. It's really hard to see, but you can see it flicker. So what I want to do is just temporarily, I'm going to flip it from post to get, just so that way you can see how this works. My input needs to have a name and an ID. So I'm just going to give it an ID. I'm going to call this thing like txt title. And I'm going to give it a name. And the name and the ID for myself, I always keep them the same. So I'm going to go txt title. And the only reason I keep them the same is it eliminates any confusion. Now I need another ID. And this one is going to be my rating. So I'm going to go txt rating. And again, the name's going to match. Oops. So I'm going to save this. So if I look at this, if I refresh this, if I do the blob, the rating is R, add new movie. Now up here I can actually txt title is the blob, and if I look closely here, txt rating is R. So when I'm troubleshooting somebody else's code, and if it's running into an error, if they're using a post, the very first thing I do is I flip the form over to a GET, and then I copy this, paste it into Notepad, and then I just dig through the variables, because now I can see txt title is a variable, txt rating is a variable, and then the values are equal to the blob, and then R. It helps me walk through somebody else's logic. We're not going to have a ton of logic like that, but it's a good thing for troubleshooting. So now that I know that the form is being posted, there are both names being added into the URL, I'm going to flip it back over to my post. And that's going to be how I'm going to keep it. So what I need to do is I need to know if anybody clicked the button. That's the main thing that I'm going to do. So I'm going to open up a PHP script block. And then within this PHP script block, what I want to do is I want to know if they submitted this form. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to use an if statement. And I'm going to check to see if something is set. And the isSet method basically returns a true or a false. Now, I want to know if the $_post square bracket txt title has been set. So if that has been set, then I know they submitted. So I'm just going to echo. Let's try that again. Write to database. Then I'm just going to exit. So I'm just going to save this. So I just want to make sure that when I hit the submit button, I evaluate it. If it had happened, I'm just going to write something to the screen and I'm going to stop execution. So that's the way that I'm just going to slowly start working through this. So if I do anything, doesn't matter what it is, as long as there's a value there, as long as there's a rating there, add it. And it didn't look like that actually worked. Oh, it did. I guess maybe I just didn't refresh the page. Okay, so I see a write to database and that it exited the transmission. So what I need to do is, I guess, I mean, it all depends. You know, I mean, technically, we need a title and we need a rating. So if I really wanted to be thorough, I probably should do this, otherwise I'd probably get bugs. So I'm going to just do another if statement. And I'm going to basically just see if the other string has been set, and that would be the txt rating. So I'm going to save that. So both the title and the rating, if both of those are set, we're going to write this all to the database, and then we're going to exit out. So I'm just going to save this. And I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to my movie list, just make sure everything's refreshed. I'm going to add a new movie. I'm going to go to the blob. Rating is going to be G. So I see it went right to database. I don't see anything inside my URL because I'm using a post, but both of these variables had to have been set. So I'm just going to kind of work through my code here a little bit. What I want to do is I want to create variables for both of them. I'm just going to call it title. And my title is going to be equal to this. Because I know it's there. And then I'm going to do another one, rating. Well, that's not good. Need square brackets. Okay, so I've got both variables. Now they're in local variables. So I want to write to the database. In order to write to the database, I'm going to need some of that database plumbing that I've had before. And over here, I need my include. That's going to open up my connection, give me all of my database connection, username, password, all of that stuff. So I'm just going to put a comment in here, database stuff. Okay, so I've got my usernames and my passwords. So that's this stuff. So then the next thing I want to do is I want to do my try catch. I'm just going to take this whole try catch and bring it over to this add. Now it's going to be a lot different, so I don't need the while loop, so I'm just going to delete the while loop out. But I do want to know if there's been an error, so I'm going to leave the catch part with the error in there. So we're going to create a new PDO connection, and then we're going to do an SQL statement. We're going to execute it, and after we execute it, technically we don't need to actually fetch anything back. So I'm just going to stop right there. And then instead of doing a select statement, we're going to do an insert. So we're going to do insert into this table, and then we're going to set certain fields. For example, we're going to set our movie title field to our variable and our movie rating field to our other variable. We're going to let the auto ID automatically do that part of it. So within PDO, we can do something called a parameterized query, and that's what I want to kind of go into right now. So I'm just going to go back over to Google here. I'm going to type in PHP my. Actually, I'm going to go PDO parameter. So the way this can work is we can create our SQL statement. So we did this before, where we did our connection, we did our prepare, and then we did our insert, or we did our select star from star. But what we can do here is we can say some of these things are going to be placeholders, and then we're going to bind those placeholders with our variables. So yeah, so this is the way that I do it, where you have the value and then you're just setting it equal to, I put a colon in front of it so that way I know that it's a placeholder, and then what I'll do is I'll bind that placeholder to a variable. So this is a way that we can actually use SQL, but it will protect us against any type of SQL injection. So instead of actually putting the value in, we're putting a placeholder in, and then after the fact we're going to bind our value to the placeholder. Okay, so I want to work on our SQL statement. So instead of doing a select, we're going to do an insert. And we're going to insert into our table. And then the way that the insert statement is going to work is after your table, you insert into table, and then you put in the fields. So for us, we've got 2 fields. And then the other thing to notice here is this looks like a single tick. It's actually a grave accent, it's called. It's above your tab key. That's the way SQL denotes what a field name is versus a string. So a string will have a single tick, where a field name has a grave accent. So I don't know, it's just one of those things. If you don't put it in, you're probably going to be fine. So for right now, I'm not going to put it in. The only time you really run into problems is if you named like your table or a field in your table, like a reserved SQL name. Like for example, if your table name was like select, then SQL really struggles between, well, what do you want me to do here? The table's called select, or do you want me to do a select statement? So if you call your table select, which would be a horrible name for a table, or execute or anything like that, all you do is you wrap that table with the sharp accents, grave accents, the sharp ticks, then it will work. So it's just the way of denoting this is going to be a database object versus a database command. Okay, so then what I want to do is I want to put in the fields. So the fields are going to be movie title, and they have to be, so we could just type in movie title. And then a comma, and then movie rating. And then afterwards we can do value. And then we would do both those values. So the way it used to work years back is people would just put those variables over here in the value. And that's bad. That actually, people were like rewriting SQL statements and creating users and doing all kinds of really, really bad things. So instead of doing that, it's better to just use a placeholder. So I'm using a colon, and I'm just going to call this thing title. And this is kind of like a variable. It's just something I'm making up here. It starts with a colon, and then I'm going to go rating. So then after doing that, so within my SQL, I've got my DB prepare. So then what's going on here is then you need to bind your values. Oops, didn't mean to do that. So I'm just going to go $SQL. Bind value. And then it's the parameter and the value. So the parameter is going to be, in this case, title. Actually, I'm going to make that into a string. And then it's going to be my variable, which is that variable right there. And then I'm going to do the same thing again. And then this time it's going to be rating. So both the title and the rating boxes were filled in. Yay. Then what happened is we took both of them out of the request stream, pulled it out of the post, shoved them into local variables called title, rating, both lowercase. Everything's lowercase, title and rating. So those are the variables that the user actually typed into the text boxes, which are these variables here that are being filled into the placeholders, capital T title, capital R rating, with colons in front of it, which are the placeholders over here within the value. So if I take a look here, I've got my title and my rating and my value. So now it's going to execute, and then during that execution it will fill those in. So I'm just going to save this, and if I take a look, I'm just going to refresh this. I've got 2 records in here. If all goes well, hopefully we'll get a 3rd record in there and not an error message. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to start completely over, go to my movie list. I'm going to do the blob. And then my rating is going to be PG 13. Add new. Okay, white screen. That actually is a good sign. I didn't see an error message. If I come over here and do a refresh, yay, the blob popped in, PG 13. So since there's no error message, if I go back and then go to my movie list, now the blob's there. So the one thing that I want to do is, if everything is filled in correctly and everything worked correctly, then I want to actually redirect over to this page. So I'm going to go back over to my ad. So right here I'm just exiting, which is giving me that white page. I don't want a white page. I actually want to redirect. And since I'm all server side, I don't have to load any of the client side if I redirect. And within PHP I can tap into the headers. So I can do a header, and then I can do a location, colon, and then I need to give it the actual name of the page that I want to move to. So since I'm on this same list, or in the same directory. My ad's in the same directory as movie list, so I'm just going to type in movie list .php. Put a semicolon at the end. So I'm going to add new movie. Toxic Avenger. We rated, what is it, NC-17. Add new movie. Boom. That's what I'm looking for. So at this point, we can add movies and we can list movies. I think that seems pretty straightforward. I think I'm just going to stop recording at this point, and then we'll pick up and start to go to the next phase of this project. So anyways, hopefully this video helps.